Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Kerton. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Out of sight, out of mind is never truer than in the media and advertising industry and here in Australia. But I'm willing to bet that it's the same for you in your industry and certainly the same around the world. And today I want to give you some encouragement to push against that and get yourself seen. Whether you're seeking PR for your business, you're trying to network, to get hired for speaking engagements, or whatever else is on our long list of things we want to do and achieve in our businesses, brands, and careers, there's a really good chance that if you don't live in a city where this stuff thrives, Sydney or Melbourne in Australia, or of course the major globals of London, Singapore, New York, et al., then you might have to work a little bit harder to get yourself noticed. And I'll be real honest here because would you expect anything less? Living regionally, as I do now, has held me back professionally in my industry of media marketing and advertising. It has significantly held me back. I left Sydney in June 2020, red hot guess what prompted that move, for more affordable pastures. I've lived in the remote east coast of Tasmania, then Hobart, then the Sunshine Coast, and it's been a brilliant adventure that has brought me so many learnings and magic moments over the last 4 and a bit years. And it's only through living regionally, read more affordably, that I was able to build this show for you and to develop my consultancy business in brand-led podcasting. And not to mention my brief career as a successful direct-to-consumer ceramicist, but that's a story for another day. But it has cost me too, and it's cost me dearly. I have been passed over for loads of opportunities. People less qualified than me have picked up amazing clients. I've had 5-figure deals fall into the ghosting abyss because it's been too hard for them to move forward with me out of market, or they've forgotten about me completely. I mean, like it's hard to arrange travel for someone with absolute flexibility or arrange a series of virtual meetings. I mean, come on now, it's not that hard. And I have for sure been overlooked for big roles in the podcasting industry that I could absolutely crush because of the mentality that you need to be in the major market. But I'm not in the business of why always me, and I want to share with you this reality, but more importantly, how I've actively rebuilt my influence and reputation in podcasting over the last 3 years to try and mitigate some of this. Spoiler alert though, I have had to work twice as hard at it. The most important thing that I do to make sure that I get myself noticed, that I'm being seen, and that my name and my knowledge and my value is in the rooms it needs to be in, is to show up on LinkedIn daily. Because there is nowhere else, I've said this before so many times on this podcast and in any other platform I can speak to, well, there is nowhere else on the internet better for networking, professional development, and staying visible with your professional network. But it does take work. I share my knowledge and I share value about the things I know about freely. I don't always just push to how someone can work with me. I give knowledge away and I connect with people in the industry that I want to know and who I want to know me. And I ask them to have virtual cuppers with me constantly. Yes, not everybody writes back to me, but occasionally I have amazing meetings. I engage with people's posts with insightful or supportive or value exchange types of comments. No matter what it is, every day I show up and I do something in that space. It is my primary method of staying visible. But I slide into DMs all over the internet. Honestly, if I can find someone's email address, I will send them an email saying, hello, this is what I do. I love your work. Would be awesome to connect. And yeah, a lot of the time I don't hear back, but sometimes I do. I also answer a lot of those that I receive myself. Not all of them, but a lot of them I do. I book at least 3 virtual coffee meetings a week. And these aren't always about opportunities or hashtag synergies. It's just for connection. And it doesn't always fit the other people. Maybe they don't want to, but I try and I make sure that my diary is filled with at least 3 of them. Back when I was a media salesperson, I remember having a KPI of 5 minimum face to face meetings every single week because it had been proven time and time again that meetings drive business, it drives outcomes. As annoying as it was for me at the time when it wasn't my business that I was building and I had a lovely salary popping into my account on the 15th of each month, it's true, it actually works. And so I've tried to build that into my weeks now as I build my profile and in turn my business and my income streams. I make sure to hit that KPI of meetings every single week. And I send myself to global and local conferences. These have just about crippled me financially in the past, but there is nothing more impactful than being seen in the right room with your industry. And you best believe, no matter how tired I am and how much it kills me sometimes, I don't put my head down and just attend the sessions and take in the knowledge. I make sure that I sit next to people I don't know and I introduce myself. I chat to people who are waiting in the lines, or if everybody's having lunch at some sort of location, I'll try and find myself a little spot and just introduce and have a chat. And I remain open to anyone who does the same with me with no expectations. I do try in reverse and open myself up to as many conversations with others as possible. And I do regular trips to the markets where my business opportunities typically lie. For me, that's Sydney, and I make sure that these trips are ridiculously packed with catch ups, like breakfast catch ups, mid morning catch ups, lunch catch ups, dinner catch ups, like as many as I possibly can to make sure that I am having those connections and those impacts. And I make sure to say things like, this is some cool ways we could work together. What are you doing in this space? Do you have any ideas for me for opportunities or people you've spoken to lately that might want to work with me? This is what I do, blah, 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 blah. And I always ask what I can do for them. It is a lot of effort to stay in sight in my industry and probably yours too. And when you're not in a major market in particular, and sometimes it takes a little more convincing that working with me is just as easier, arguably easier than if I was based in a major market, that working with me wherever I am is perfectly fine. I had an ex-colleague and a friend joke with me on the phone the other day saying, how the bloody hell has nobody headhunted you as their head of podcasts yet? And I hear this sort of thing fairly often. I might hear it around, how has no major brand picked up your podcasting for the long term yet? Like Miles and Zeros of the world, like how are they not getting around this work that you're doing? And yeah, I could be self-deprecating as to why not. But the thing is, I would be great at a role of head of podcasts, fractional, long-term or otherwise. And I am great in the role of consulting strategic director for podcasts that I do now. And yes, absolutely, those brands should be partnering with my pod. But out of sight, out of mind is, often playing out in rooms and I don't even know about it. So it's paramount that wherever we live, we have to stay visible in the areas that we need to. Now, I have ambitions for an action-packed podcast portfolio career, which is a mouthful, but I want it to be filled with business income streams and yes, maybe even roles as an employee. So I need to make sure that I'm telling people about this, that we're telling people what it is that we want. You need to tell people what you want. I have no doubt that my own opportunities would increase, clients and other opportunities if I still lived in Sydney. And all this is to say that if you choose to live regionally or already live regionally for a short while or for good, if you always have, you might just need to work a little bit harder to stay visible. And there's a lot of positives in that process, like learning to tell your story effectively by having to do it 200 different ways on multiple platforms is a really wonderful thing to learn and to go through. And you don't often get that when you don't have to go through this process. And you certainly get over a fear of networking events or awkward emails or awkward interaction and asking for what you want. And you do stay hungry. I feel like people who live regionally never rest on our laurels that it'll just happen or, we make things happen. Because honestly, you don't ask, you don't get. And that has just been proven to me time and time again. When I am at my lowest, the best thing that I can do is start asking for what it is that I want, even if it hurts to get the rejections or to be ignored. Just to ask is part of the challenge to get through. And it's where the opportunity comes from. This week in particular, the one that I'm releasing this episode for you, is the same week as South by Southwest in Sydney, which is an event that I was busting to go to but couldn't afford to. So I am not there. But my LinkedIn feed is flooded with people making connections. They're speaking on stages that I dream of speaking on. They're hosting live podcasts that I dream of hosting. And they're relishing in their professional potential and the interactions and opportunities that are being made daily. And honestly, it kills me a little bit. But to make it all work, to live regionally for now, which is what I'm doing, and to stay top of mind, I have ramped up my posting and my connection game on LinkedIn even more this week. It's a really important thing to do at times in your business where you see other people doing things that maybe you can't be part of. How can you try to get yourself out there even more on those weeks? And, for a week when it's South by Southwest and the whole world of my connections seem to be there having a ripping good time, it also seems that they're spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. So hence I've ramped up my game there a little bit more. And in between sessions, perhaps I can get myself seen. I absolutely love living regionally and will remain a huge advocate for it if it's right for you, especially if you're making a leap from corporate to building your own thing. It's an amazing way to lower your expenses depending on where you pick, given there's so many more people flooding into regional areas for multiple reasons. And the homeowners perhaps might be loving the Rent Rise Association, but that rant aside, whatever sacrifices you make, and living regionally isn't a sacrifice for everyone. It's wonderful, and it's wonderful for me too. But sometimes if you are, having to make some changes in your life about where you live or how you live, it's just a really important aspect of building your own business. There's a lot of incredible aspects to it. But I will say, honestly, that my heart has always been in Sydney. I'm still an avid Swans fan, yes, even after 2 grand final heartbreaks for my fellow AFL fans. And I have been working my way home to Sydney for 4 years. Good things take time, but I am putting in the work. My partner is putting in the work. And when we go back to where it is that we want to be, we will be so much better as humans and professionals. My own personal revenue line's pending. I'll be back sometime in 2025. And I am really excited to see if there's going to be a shift in the opportunities and things change. But location should never stop a decision maker from finding the best person for a role, for a partnership, for a service-based agreement, for whatever. And particularly not in this technological era. But as business and brand builders, it's our job to get ourselves out there and in the minds of those people we want to work with us. Being seen does not happen by accident, and we have to take an active role in it. So get yourself out there, share your knowledge, make connections, even if they lead to nowhere. You deserve to be seen, and you deserve to highlight the incredible work that you have. And if we don't ask, we don't get. We need to stay in mind as much as we can. To keep this show visible on your feed, make sure you're subscribed. I'm showing up here every single week for you to help you build your own business by bringing you into the stories, insights, and learnings of those of us that are in the thick of it and highlighting the crazy old intersection of entrepreneurship and personal growth that we all go through. So let's now go and ask for some meetings, book some times. As my most recent guest, Ryan Kelly from Creative Native said, when it is tough, it is time to build brand. If you haven't heard that episode yet, it is a goodie. You can find the link in the show description and you will absolutely love it. So let's get ourselves out there, make sure we stay in sight and in mind. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Kerton. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.